and we miss you so much.
$6,000 reward in a case of a missing Arizona girl.
Isabel was last seen in this home by her parents.
They have been interviewed extensively.
We are cooperating to the fullest extent.
We're labeling it as suspicious circumstances and a possible abduction.
We are here today to plea.
Tell us your demands. Tell us what you want.
They woke up Saturday and she was gone. Found that she was not in her room at that point.
60-year-old Isabel Mercedez Celis was gone.
Investigators found, quote, suspicious circumstances in Isabel's bedroom.
We have a window that was open and a screen removed.
Last seen by her parents at about 11 p.m. Next notice missing at 8 a.m.
A window was open and a screen was off. Isabel was gone.
We're not ruling out anything in this investigation.
There's just no possible way that the family would have anything to do with this.
We will never give up looking for you.
Tonight, breaking news in the disappearance of that missing Tucson first grader 5 days after Isabel Celis vanished. Her parents finally speak out and they break down in tears. Their adorable 6-year-old daughter was last seen Friday night. She disappeared from her own bedroom. Here they are just a little while ago making a very emotional plea to the public.
We're looking for you, Isa. We love you, and we miss you so much. And we will never give up. We will never give up looking for you.
We don't want the focus to be taken off Isabel by us being in front of the cameras or by the media. We are here today to plea for a safe return of our baby girl Isabel.
People were wondering why Isabel's parents haven't spoken to the public before. Cops say the mother and father had been questioned separately and at length, and they were prevented from going back to the home until just yesterday. All this as new reports just surfacing that surveillance cameras pointing directly at the Celis' home may hold the answer to what happened that night, the night that Isabel disappeared. Did they see anything? Was there any movement? We're taking your calls. What do you think about the parent's statement today? Call me, 1-877-JVM says, 1-877-586-7297. Straight out to HLN's Natisha Lance, producer for Nancy Grace, on the ground in Tucson. You were at the news conference. Natisha, they seem to be appealing to kidnappers, asking, what are your demands? Are they implying that they know something we don't?
You know, Jane, that's a big question, and we don't know at this point, but it did appear as if they were appealing to whomever may have their daughter and that they believe that she is in the hands of a kidnapper. It was a very emotional plea, seeing the parents out here for the first time today, and actually we were speaking to a friend of the family earlier today who was supposed to do a taping with us this afternoon for Nancy Grace, and he received a phone call from Sergio, the father of Isabel, where he said, don't make any statements because we're going to be coming out and speaking today, and that's what we saw this afternoon. Very emotional parents, and not only the parents who are emotional, but also, you can see behind me, there's a tent with a group of people. These folks have been volunteers. They are friends of the family, and they have been out here every day seeking donations as well as distributing flyers for Isabel, and they were behind the family, also shedding tears, sniffling, very emotional, Jane.
Yeah, and I was hoping they would stop and answer some questions because we have so many questions. We want to know, for example, what about the screen that was supposedly removed from a window in the house? Was that specifically at the little girl's bedroom? What about police saying the dog hit on something at or near the house? Where exactly? We have so many unanswered questions, and this is the first time we're hearing from missing Isabel Celis' parents. Her mom says they don't want the focus to be on them. They want it to be on their daughter. Isabel's dad, the person who discovered the child was missing, spoke about their involvement in this case a short time ago.
We are cooperating to the fullest extent with the investigation. We are increasing the reward. Just please, please, to the person or persons who have Isabel, tell us your demands. Tell us what you want. We will do anything for her.
I want to do a round robin of our experts as we look at video of what went down today and ask them what they make of this father's demeanor. Wendy Murphy, former professor of law at New England Law Boston. I was very viscerally responsive to the mother. She looked down, but to read notes, then she looked up. The dad, this is just my gut reaction. I have absolutely no proof of anything. He is not a suspect, but he struck me as a tad theatrical, and he looked down a lot.
Yeah. You know, look, if you want to make judgments about these people based on how they present, you know, lots of us would say they didn't exactly present as entirely innocent. It doesn't mean they've done something harmful, but it indicated to me that they probably know more than, you know, than we've heard from them directly. Here's what I think is suspicious about the parents, and again, it may be nothing. Why 2 search warrants? Why did cops have to get 2 search warrants? In addition to the fact that there were 2 dogs in there, one sniffing for a cadaver odor and one sniffing for tracks of a potentially live child, why did they have to get 2 separate search warrants? Why didn't the parents say, come into our home and do whatever you want, whenever you want, search anything, anywhere, anytime? The fact that the cops had to get search warrants indicates to me that the parents didn't let them in, and that is not a good sign.
Actually, that may not be the case, because I spoke to the police chief and I asked him that very question. He said we preferred to do it by the book. And cross our I's and dot our I's and cross our T's, whatever. But now here's a breaking news development. There are published reports suggesting the answer to this entire mystery may lie in surveillance video from neighboring houses and shops. ABC News is reporting tonight that one surveillance camera is attached to a home just 75 yards away and points directly at the Celis' home. Other cameras are attached to nearby businesses. So I want to bring in James Copenhaver, retired major case investigator of Orlando, Florida. Oh, my gosh. If there was a video surveillance camera trained on this home the entire night, what are the implications there, sir?
Jane, that would be huge. I mean, just think if you had a video trained on that area or the window or the home of that house and it's captured on video and you actually see someone abducting this child, it would be a huge break in the case.
Absolutely. And then let's add another wrinkle. Several of the Celis' dogs were reportedly in or around the home that night. Now, let's listen to what a neighbor told ABC's Good Morning America, and then you'll hear what the police chief said about that night and the dogs.
So you're saying you can't walk up to their house without the dogs barking like crazy?
If they're outside, yeah.
Did neighbors hear anything in the middle of the night?
I don't want to comment on that. We do have some information, but that's something I don't want to put forward yet.
All right, John Liebman, investigative reporter. I would think that if you have surveillance video and then, depending on what happened with the dogs, if they barked or not, you've got a lot of information there.
Well, absolutely. There are a lot of new tidbits tonight, Jane. One is that police apparently passed out questionnaires to the neighbors asking, did anybody have a camera? Where were the surveillance cameras? Who was this little girl normally seen with? That's number one. The second thing is we learned late last night, police refreshed that search warrant for the home, and they went back into the home with the FBI's Special Behavioral Analysis Unit. So they're still very much trained on that home, and the police also made it a point to say that they are not necessarily stating that the point of entry was that open window. They're leaving it open. And one more thing as to the parents' statement, one thing that we don't know, which is very important, is this. Were the parents advised what to say by local or federal law enforcement? Many times, law enforcement will give certain messages that they would like to get out through the parents when they make an impassioned plea like this. I don't believe that law enforcement was involved in this statement, but it's something we have to find out.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Whitney, Tennessee, your question or thought. Whitney.
Jane, I was wondering, have they questioned the brothers, and what are the ages of the brothers, and could there be any of the friends of the brothers involved in any of this?
Great question. Atisha Lance, HLN producer, the children.
That is a question that I asked the chief today, Jane. And yes, the siblings of Isabel have been questioned. They're 10 years old and 14 years old. They didn't mention how many times they've been questioned, but they also were asked if the FBI has questioned anybody in the family. And at this point, they said no.
All right, we're taking your calls on this. 1-877-JVM says. And I got to tell you, we're also going to ask about Madeleine McCann. Is she...
Still no sign of Isabel. and the clock continues to tick.
We're all mothers. We are the closest family in the pediatric ER. We are just devastated by this. We're all putting ourselves in her shoes. She hasn't been allowed to look for her daughter.
All right, we're going to review the timeline of what happened to Isabel in the hours before she was reported missing. Isabel was put to bed at 11 o'clock Friday night. Then at 7:30 the next morning, her mother leaves for work. She's a nurse. Then just half an hour later, her dad, who happens to be a dental technician, discovers that she's missing. He's still at home. It's a Saturday morning. Police still haven't said, though, who put Isabel to bed Friday night, her mom or her dad. That would be significant, right? Because if the dad put her to bed Friday night and the dad finds her missing, that means mom hasn't really seen her for maybe a long time. Now, we don't know whether mom checked on Isabel at 7:30 the next morning before leaving for work as a nurse at a local hospital. I got to ask you, Wendy Murphy, what does it say when cops give some details? I mean, we've gotten some details, but then, of course, we have follow-up questions, and then they refuse to answer those. Why did they leave those critical details out?
Yeah, well, you know, it's such a good question because to some extent, and I think we all know this, cops will use the media to help crack the case, and sometimes it's a very subtle approach because they don't want the bad guys knowing what they're doing. So they leak just enough, and sometimes in very indirect ways, in the hopes that it smokes somebody out. You know, I think one of the questions we have to ask here is whether the parents do have a sense about what happened, and the cops do too. For example, pure speculation, what if the parents had some kind of drug debt, right? You know, the number of cases we've covered here on this program of little kids going missing in the middle of the night, and what happens before you know it, we hear that there was some kind of drug involvement. Look, people who are interested in making up, you know, getting their debt paid, like the drug dealers, they'll take a kid as a payment, and they don't call and let you know they're coming. So we have to provide for all these kinds of really, you know, scary potential explanations, and we should ask questions. Did the parents have a drug problem? Were they in debt? Were they in debt? Is that what went on here? I think I would like to ask that of these parents.
Okay, Isabel's mom, by the way, is a nurse at a local hospital. Her father, again, a dental hygienist. They seem like kind of boring people. Police say they're not as suspects at this point. A friend says there is no way that they're involved. Listen to this friend.
That's just not a possibility if you knew this family. These two have, they've been married. They've been together since they were teenagers. There's no separation going on. There's just no possible way that the family would have anything to do with this.
So James Copenhagen, a retired major case investigator, they have no criminal record. They have no criminal history. No history of cops being called to the house, no history of Department Children and Family Services, no marital discord. And nevertheless, the cops say there was a hit by a police dog somewhere in or near the house.
Jane, that's all fine and good, and we hope that the parents had nothing to do with this. My concerning thing as a former investigator and as a private investigator is the fact that the mother who left home at 7:30 that morning didn't go in and check on the child. You would think, you know, she's a nurse, dad's a dental hygienist, you have caring folks, and plus the motherly love. You would think that she would have checked on the child before she left.
All right, I want to play the sound again from today's news conference. Let's listen and everybody an analysis. Check it out.
We're looking for you, Isa. We love you, and we miss you so much. And we will never give up. We will never give up looking for you.
We don't want the focus to be taken off Isabel by us being in front of the cameras or by the media. We are here today to plea for a safe return of our baby girl Isabel.
John Lieberman, your analysis.
Well, it's hard to criticize, you know, parents in their biggest time of distress and need. So obviously, you know, it's not right at this point to criticize them. One thing that stuck out to me was that they didn't take any questions, and there are so many questions. But I can tell you this.
More on the other side.